It's Twitter Tuesday, which means that I went onto the internet today to see who wanted to give me a topic for today's vlog. And I was really excited because my good friend Mark Plord and my co-host on Glowburn, the Glowburn podcast, he offered up an awesome topic for today. I'm not sure if I'm going to go exactly the direction he thought I would go, but I'm going to go in a direction, right? So Mark brought up the topic today of the merits and flaws of nostalgia gaming. So nostalgia is certainly a really powerful driver in our golden age of RPGs, right? Like many of us are quickly becoming more distinguished and somewhat older. You know, I know I'm losing my hair. As much as I'm trying to hold on to the sides, the top is going back, it's going away. But we're trying to reclaim those awesome days of our past. And maybe it's that, you know, that first time as a kid that you're opening up your D&D red box and just looking at the dice that you have to use the crayon to fill in. Or maybe it's the all-nighters in high school. Like for me, when we would play bug hunters until like 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning, like chugging crappy dollar store Top Pop or Pepsi Kona when that came out in the mid 90s. That was the coffee cola from Pepsi that was demoed or showcased, tested here in the Philadelphia market. We love that crap. Maybe it was those intoxicated college weekends that we had playing Alternity into the wee hours of the morning all weekend, both days, just, you know, because why didn't we have jobs? Why weren't we working? Why are we gaming so much? Well, that's kind of what we were trying to, I think, capture when we think about nostalgia gaming. I think it's fair to say that a lot of our hobby really is like just plugged into reclaiming this past, you know, that we so desperately long for. I think that the entire OSR, old school, you know, Renaissance, was initially driven by this desire to go back to this past and to recapture the glory of those old days amidst a windfall of ever more complicated games. At least that's how OSR, I think, sort of popped out. And let's face it, you know, without nostalgia, we probably wouldn't have one of my favorite role-playing games, Dungeon Crawl Classics by Goodman Games. All right, so we kind of need nostalgia for that. You know, and there certainly are a lot of boons and benefits to what nostalgia has done in gaming. You know, whether we're enjoying retro clones of our favorite games from our childhood, or maybe we're cracking open books for the very first time that we have in decades, and just finally saying, oh wow, I have this still in my library. Why haven't I played this in so long? And what nostalgia gaming does for us is it lets us share aspects of our hobby with those our fellow gamers who maybe didn't have a chance to experience it because they were too young, and it wasn't out when they were, you know, it wasn't out when they got older, you know, like, so they were, you know, when by the time they became more mature gamers, it was, you know, you couldn't find the books at half price books, or you'd have to go on eBay or something like that. You know, there was a time before Drive-Thru RPG. Can you imagine that? It's a way for us to celebrate the history of tabletop role-playing games, right? I mean, we can kind of go in and, you know, find these games that, you know, had something to do with the creation of subsequent games and play the games that everything was based on. You know, more experienced gamers can explore those design decisions and, you know, behind some of those earlier games and see what led to subsequent games. Or maybe we just get lost in the campaigns we've always wanted to play that we've never had the chance to run. I know for me, like being able to delve back into Alternity this year, I always wanted to run an Alternity Star Drive campaign. It was a dream of mine. I love the setting, I love the source material, and I finally got to do it this year. It was like a bucket list campaign for me. I can finally say, yes, I did this, and you know, it was awesome and a bit clunky at times, but it was a 20-year goal and it happened. But I think there are a lot of complications that can be caused by nostalgia because we each experience it somewhat differently And some of those complications, they can get kind of serious. So first off, all of us experience nostalgia differently. So what's something that I long for might be different than something that someone else longs for. From the gaming aspect, for me, my first gaming experiences were basic Dungeons and Dragons, ElfQuest, Alternity, and Amazing Engine. Those were like some of my earlier games that I kind of got into in my teens, especially, until I was about 20. Those were my games. I know my friend Mark, who sent the question over, Mark started playing with Rifts and Palladium system games. So that's going to be nostalgic for him. So when we played Alternity together, it was hitting different buttons in each of our brains. For him, he was experiencing this different sci-fi system, and for me, I was just like, holy crap, this arcade post art is fantastic. I get to see this again whenever I crack these books open. So when you're putting together your groups to try some of these games and to explore your past, it might be feasible to do this successfully when you're recruiting a bunch of people who have the same desire to play the same thing. But if you go to your Cypher System friends and say, hey, I want to play Amazing Engine again, and you just kind of spring that on them, this old game that might be kind of clunky now, yeah, they might not remember it the same way you did, and they may not be as interested in playing it. Like, it's just not going to hit the same buttons for them. Nostalgia nostalgia colored glasses are definitely a thing also. Those old games that you and I love, yeah, they don't play the same as we remember them, especially if we haven't played them in a while. You do not remember the ugly parts. I did not remember the ugly parts of Alternity, but I quickly remember them once we started playing. The fact that weapons do different damage based on what kind of armor they're hitting, or what kind of like just all that skills are as complicated as they are. Instead of feats, as you put more skill points in certain skills, you kind of get feats, and that the perks and the flaws, some of them are way overpowered and underpowered. There's such a swing. That intelligence in Alternity is so damn important, and really a low intelligence character is going to suck, because all skill points are based on intelligence, something that kind of did get pulled into 3rd edition, and I'm very glad to see that in 5th edition it ain't there. I don't think it was in there in 4th edition either. There are ugly parts. We do not remember them, okay? It's just a fact. But for some people, and this is where we're going to get a little serious here, nostalgia doesn't just mean playing games from our past, but also, taking on some old and outdated and often hurtful attitudes towards our fellow gamers and rekindling those attitudes. Nostalgia can often be used as an excuse for gatekeeping, for keeping people out of the hobby that want to come into the hobby and have never experienced our hobby before. We might remember a certain time in gaming when, representation of other kinds of people, of other genders, of other ethnicities, there was no representation. That wasn't a good thing. Okay, so it's not something we should be longing for. It's not something we should be looking for. If we're out, there's so many people screaming for they want to play like we played in the old days. We shouldn't be looking at every aspect of that. And oftentimes, I think that people hide behind, oh, well, it's the nostalgia thing. I think it's too easy to hide. These times before, these are times when representation, and diversity was severely lacking at the game table. It was a time when women were certainly not welcome at the game table, and, oftentimes were made to feel very uncomfortable at the game table by men at the table. This was a time that's often looked back on where no one spoke up about mental illness at the game table, and you just had to deal with it. A time when we didn't have the right tools. We didn't have X cards or player consent forms. We didn't have those. And people who hear that and think, that's social justice warrior, crap. Well, you know what? I mean, it's necessary, And first off, if you're gonna SJW label me, that's fine. Oh, I prefer the wizard to the warrior, but yeah, I'm out there. I'm very comfortable. If you don't like hearing the term, if you think the term social justice warrior has a negative connotation, you're not gonna like the stuff I have to say as I move forward in these vlogs, okay? Because it's a badge of honor for me, and it's something that I want to stand up for. Yes, I want to see social justice in our hobby. Yes, I want to see more inclusion. I want to see more diversity. I want to see more people gaming. That's for the betterment of our hobby. Oftentimes, the people that don't want those things, they're going to hide behind nostalgia, and that's going to be their excuse. And we need to be on guard for that. Honestly, our gaming community needs to continue being ever vigilant for when those times when nostalgia is wielded as a weapon to usher in a return to repression or underrepresentation in our hobby. Okay, so that's my take. I think it's the right take. Oftentimes, I have opinions on things, and they can be right or wrong. This is one of those times I'm right. So we're gonna leave it there. But great question, Mark. Thank you for sending it over, and I really appreciate it. So tomorrow is Wednesday, and I'm supposed to have something I talk about every day. It's a little bit different, right? And Wednesday is Geek Life. So I'll be talking about something maybe in the house. I kind of want to do a tour in the house of our living room and dining room, because it's like the Disney haven of our home. So we'll see if I'm allowed to do that or not, if Jen's cool with me doing that. But otherwise, that's all I got. So play nice, kiddos, and I will see you all tomorrow.